Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that I know a lot of you are probably thinking about a lot, and that's the fear of speaking English. It can be such a roadblock.
It really can be.
But don't worry, in this deep dive, we're going to give you some actionable things. You can try to help you overcome that fear and become a more confident communicator.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny. It's completely normal to be anxious about speaking a new language. And I think we all worry about making those grammar mistakes or our accents sounding strange, or even just totally blanking in the middle of a conversation.
Oh yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
But the good news is those anxieties are so common and
Mhm.
they're totally surmountable. We're going to give you the tools you need to move past them.
Like I remember when I first tried to speak French when I was in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and in my head I was just like, am I conjugating these verbs right? Do I sound
All
silly?
right. Yeah, I've been there.
It was almost paralyzing, you know?
Oh,
I didn't even want to open my mouth.
right.
Why do you think these fears kind of have such a grip on us?
Well, I think it often comes down to this thing called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get so worried about making mistakes that you hesitate, and then ironically, that makes you more likely to stumble over your words.
Right.
The same goes for accents. We assume that people won't understand us, and so we start mumbling, which actually makes us harder to understand, so
Yeah.
it becomes this really vicious cycle.
Yeah. Our brains are working against us.
Yeah, they are.
But instead of letting those fears win, why don't we talk about some of the things that our listeners can try to break free from that cycle?
Yeah, I think the best way to approach it is with something called graded exposure. So
Mhm.
starting small and building your language muscles up gradually rather than jumping into like a marathon conversation.
Right.
You don't want to overwhelm yourself.
So, like, don't start by giving a speech to 1,000 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Start maybe a little smaller.
Exactly. So finding a friend or a language exchange partner or even just a supportive online community to practice with regularly in a low pressure environment can make a huge difference.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and you can think of each one of those short conversations as like a mini workout for your English skills.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, like little reps.
Yeah.
Little reps. And that's such a good point about finding a comfortable space to practice.
Mm,
Because I think when you're comfortable, you're more likely to just kind of let go and speak.
absolutely.
And that's when the magic happens, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of practice, another thing you can actually try is recording yourself speaking English.
Ooh, that's a good
I
one.
know it sounds a bit daunting, but trust me on this one. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. It's like having a personal language coach right in your pocket. When you record yourself, you can pinpoint areas to focus on. Maybe you notice that you make a lot of verb tense errors or that you're hesitating a lot when you speak. And then you can work on those things specifically. Plus,
Mhm.
you get used to hearing your own voice speaking English, which can be a big hurdle for some people.
Oh, I bet, yeah. It can be really jarring to hear your own voice.
It can.
And it can make you feel even more self-conscious.
Huh.
But I think the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's almost like turning the tables on that inner critic. Like, hey, inner critic, I'm going to listen to myself and I'm going to give myself some grace.
Exactly. You got to be kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, what about those times when you are kind of put on the spot you need to, like order food,
Yeah.
ask for directions, to participate in a meeting at work?
Mhm.
In those moments, I think it's helpful to have a set of common phrases that you can just kind of pull out of your back pocket, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And think about those situations that you encounter on a regular basis. Maybe you need to make small talk with your colleagues at work, you need to order coffee, or you need to navigate public transportation. Whatever those situations are, write down some common phrases for those situations that you can practice and memorize. It's like having a cheat sheet for real life
Oh,
conversations.
that's such a good point.
Takes a lot of pressure off. Yeah, and it frees up your brain to really focus on the interaction and not be so worried about the grammar or, whatever else might be going on in your head.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think this next tip is super important. Prioritize your message over grammatical perfection.
Ooh, good one.
It's so easy to get caught up in that fear of making a mistake, but what really matters in communication.
Connection.
Yes.
Yeah, think about it. When someone is telling you an exciting story, are you sitting there analyzing their grammar?
No.
Or are you caught up in the story itself?
Right. You're thinking about the content of what they're saying.
Exactly. And most people are much more focused on what you're saying rather than whether you've used the perfect conditional tense. So instead of striving for flawlessness, focus on conveying your message in a clear and authentic way.
And I love that reframing because it's so true. I'm reminded of something a friend once told me. They said, don't let the pursuit of perfect English stop you from speaking any English at all.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think that's just so important to keep in mind because you're never going to be perfect. No one is.
Yeah.
And so just embrace those imperfections and just keep talking. And finally, let's talk about mistakes.
Yeah.
What if we didn't see them as failures, but rather as learning opportunities?
Yes. Mistakes are inevitable.
For sure.
But they're also so valuable. Every time you stumble, you're getting feedback and you're identifying areas to work on. And honestly, some of the funniest, most memorable language learning stories come from those blunders.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's all about being kind to yourself and embracing the journey. And speaking of journeys, we love to share these real-life success stories.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about Anna and Raj.
Oh, I love those stories.
So inspiring.
They are.
So for those who haven't heard those stories, Anna from Brazil was terrified of speaking up in work meetings. So she joined a casual English conversation group and slowly built the confidence to share her ideas.
That's great.
And then Raj from India had this big presentation in English coming up. So he made a point of practicing key phrases every single day. And not only did he nail the presentation, but he actually discovered a passion for public speaking.
That's awesome.
I know.
So inspiring.
It is so inspiring. It just proves that with consistent effort and a positive mindset, you can make huge differences in your English-speaking journey.
You really can.
So I want to ask all of you listening right now, what's your biggest hurdle when it comes to speaking English?
Yeah, and which of these things to actually try can you start implementing today? Because remember, becoming a more confident English speaker is a journey. It's not a destination. And you have all the tools you need to succeed.
That's so true. It's a journey, not a destination. I love that.
It really is.
Well said. So keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep talking.
Keep talking.
You've got this.
That's right.
We'll see you in the next deep dive. Bye, everybody.
Bye.